The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what you're going to hear on my podcast, Open Mic. I'm going to tell you things that most lawyers won't tell you. We expose the truth and bring you justice. I want you to go for the win in law and in life.
You want an honest man, but you don't understand. I wanna be here
It's 1995 and police in New Jersey are trying to solve a double homicide. They don't have much to go on, but an informant gives them a name of two people who may have been in the area and witnessed the crime. When police question them, one says they heard gunshots, but were too far to see anything. The other, a crack addict, an alcoholic, who was actually smoking crack at the time of the murders, says not only were they there, they saw the whole thing and know the shooters' names. There is no physical evidence in the case, but prosecutors roll the dice and take two men, Kevin Baker and Sean Washington, to trial based only on the evidence of the addicted witness. Those two 23-year-old men would be convicted and spend more than 2 decades behind bars before being exonerated and released. Let's meet those two men who are finally free. Kevin Baker, Sean Washington, welcome to the Open Mic Show.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. Hi, Sean.
Thank you.
Before we get into the details of your case,
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Tell me, let's start with Kevin. How long were you in prison for a murder that you did not commit?
For 25 years, almost to the day, because it's crazy. I got arrested on February 14th and got released on February 13th.
And tell me, I know this is a really, really hard question, but tell me how this affected your life up until now and the types of things that you missed while you were in prison.
Oh man, like I said, it's hard to put it in words like how it affected you because it's just the trickle down effect of, not being able to have a family or, family members that you lost, what you could have established or what you could have contributed. It's bad. If you go into that though, I think you'll go crazy. So you try to just not go too deep into that.
No, I get it. Sean, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, being away for 25 years for something you didn't do, like it takes a toll on you. Like we both lost multiple family members and people we cared about. Neither one of us had a chance to, be fathers to our children or anything. We missed out on a lot, and prison kind of does something psychological to you too. Just like I read about PTSD, people going away and we're going away to war, fight wars, and they come back suffer PTSD. Men who do time in prison, we suffer some type of PTSD.
I don't doubt that, and I've read about that as well. Sean, you grew up in Camden, New Jersey. You had your whole life ahead of you. What do you think you were going to become at 23 years old? What was going through your head at that time?
Say that again.
At 23 years old, before getting arrested, what were your plans for the future?
Marriage and children. I always I see my mother and my sister get married when I was a child. I always wanted to get married. I kind of have a big extended family, and as a child, we wanted for nothing. I was kind of spoiled rotten. I always wanted to be a father and raise some children and get married. And I kind of missed out on that in them 25 years, but still not too late. I'm hoping to make up for it the next 20.
Good for you. I wish you the best of luck in that. So tell our viewers, you got arrested and convicted around the age of 23. I mean, what were your plans for life before this all went down, before you were wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, wrongfully imprisoned? What were your plans for life?
Well, at 23, I was still figuring it out myself. So, I was doing little jobs, working here, working there, but I was pretty much, figuring out what's going to be my course. Cause, I come from this environment. I lived in this environment. So I wasn't like out of college or anything like that. But my goals wasn't to come to prison for 25 years. So,
No.
I was just really beginning to, come into that stage. I was still a kid though. Mentally, I was still a kid.
What was it like growing up in Camden, New Jersey?
Oh man, it was rough. It's rough. It's an environment that, it breeds certain type of behavior. So if you're not careful, you can develop, you develop wrong ways of thinking, and you get yourself in situations. So it breeds that. It's a bad environment mentally. It's good people here. I'm not going to just wash everybody in Camden out, but it's that type of environment where it develops those. And that's another thing. Like when I came home, it's like far as like adjusting mentally. Like I said, this environment and prison environment, the negatives. I'm going from the negative situations because it's I keep myself in positive out here, but that negative element is out here just like it was in prison. That depression and that deep, this like hopelessness and stuff. So it's the parallels. Is like I'm getting out. I'm like, damn, you got the same behaviors as the guy I just left in prison. So like it's I try to stay away from that, but I pick it up. Like that's what I learned in prison, I guess.
You
Like,
learned how to adapt.
Yeah. I definitely learned how to adapt.
You grew up in Camden, New Jersey as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Kevin just told us what it was like growing up there, but tell us for you, what was it like growing up in Camden, New Jersey?
It it was kind of a mixed bag. In the beginning, it was lovely. In the 70s, I mean, all the neighbors, it was a neighborhood like a village. Everybody looked out for each other, watched out for each other's kids. Sometimes if a family be low with rent money, they may have a rent party or sell some dinners, and people would support them. It was a lot of unity when I was growing up in the 70s, and then sometime in the 80s, when the drugs hit heavily, especially that crack era, it kind of changed for the worse. It became real violent. People were, became self-centered. It was all about their selves and what they want. That crack era just really changed it.
Got it. So just to bring you back, unfortunately, I have to bring you back to January 28th, 1995. There's a double murder that ultimately changed both of your lives forever. Kevin, I'm going to start with you to tell us what happened and where were you on that day?
Well, on that day, I was actually home. So I wasn't nowhere in the area, nowhere near the area. So I was home, and I wasn't, like I said, me and Sean, we knew each other because from the area, but we didn't hang together. So
you and Sean you're talking about.
Yeah, me and Sean.
So you're home at 6 a.m. Who were you home with?
I was home with Michelle Retton, a girlfriend of mine.
Okay. And Sean, where were you at that time? 6 a.m. on January 28th, 1995.
I was at my sister's house where I stayed occasionally. It was about a block away from the murder. It was in Roosevelt Manor, a housing project where the double homicide happened. I was there with my nephew. But prior to that, I was out in the streets. We were involved in the drug trade, so I was out prior to that. And then when I went back to my sister's house to cook something to eat about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and me and my nephew were talking, and then my pager went off about 5:30. So after I was finished eating, I went down to the payphone about a half a block away to use the payphone to return the call, and that's I put the change in to make the call. The change didn't go through. I went to go around the corner to see if I could bump some change from somebody that might have been hanging out, and that's when I discovered the two people laying there dead. And I went hysterical. I started crying. And I thought it was my nephew at first because the gentleman had on a green army fatigue jacket, and my nephew had on a green jacket that was similar to that. So at first I thought it was him. And I went to the payphone I was upset. Yeah. Then I went to the payphone and made the 911 call. I called the police.
So this is one of these ironic twists in your case, and there's several of them. But you made a 911 call reporting the two dead bodies of 35-year-old Rodney Turner and 40-year-old Margaret Wilson. And you didn't leave your name on the 911 call. Is that correct?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay, so we're going to get back to that in a little bit. It's a crucial part of this story. 5 days later, an informant said her cousins were in the area. Do either of you know the cousins, Denise Rand and Tyler Moore?
Tyrone, yes, sir.
They're people from the area, yeah. So everybody familiar with it. And that area, everybody's familiar with everybody, really. So,
well, I guess this Denise Rand said she saw you two run up and shoot the victims. Why do you think she said that?
Well, from my, I don't know why she said it, but from my understanding, somebody said that she was out there. Somebody implicated her and said that she was out there. So when they went and got her, that's where this story come from. Now, why she said it or how they made her say it, it's, we can't really say, but from my understanding, it was what Ty Moore said is that she wasn't even there. And my understanding is the evidence said that she wasn't there because there's nothing that proved that her story. That's the thing with this case, that everything she said is not corroborated by anything. In fact, the evidence shows that what she said is a lie. It was physically impossible for the crime to happen the way she described it. Physically impossible. Right. And the other person, Tyrone Moore, said a totally different story. What was his story? Yeah. He said that they were 2 blocks away when it happened. And what they did with him, it's a lot of things they did with him that were shady too, as far as this lie detector test. Then we come to find out as we investigate, the guy that's supposed to administer the lie detector test, he's not a qualified polygraphist or nothing. He had no notes, because we went and got an expert with the polygraph. And they said with that, you have to have all these notes and findings. And they couldn't find nothing on this guy. And so it was something with that too, but that's where they said with Ty, they said they took a polygraph test and he was not telling the truth. I have a question about these witnesses. Were either one of you friends with either one of these witnesses? Used to hang out with either one of them? No. Go ahead.
They were older than us, so we didn't really hang with them. They used to hang with my older siblings. My older siblings knew them, but we never hung together, nothing.
Right. So Rands took a polygraph, and what were you trying to say about the polygraph that wasn't right? No, Rand never took a polygraph. Only Moore took the polygraph. Okay. See, they never took a polygraph to see was she lying. They took one of him because his story didn't match hers. So they said, how could they, make him, not believable? So they took this Fugazi lie detector test, which has no notes, which we don't know if this guy was an actual polygraph allowed to take polygraphs. You know what I'm saying? So that's what was up with the polygraph. So there was like one piece of paper with a couple questions on it, which, like I said, we had an expert there. He explained how that proceeded. He went in detail of how that procedure go far as taking polygraph tests. He said that's what they do. They have to collect that data and that paperwork. He said it was nothing there, and they couldn't find who this dude was. So it's only. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, he said it's only a few polygraph people that were in New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? That's qualified. He said that community knows everybody. So it was just something with the polygraph. So police decided to make arrests on February 15th, 1995. Kevin, you were taken into custody, and Sean, you ran away from the police. Tell me what happened there.
Well, they executed, I think, about 8 arrest warrants for 7 homicides on February the 14th. And I was pulling up to my sister's apartment in Roosevelt Manor, and I seen cop cars on the lawn and running up and people going in the house. So I was in the car with someone, so I told them to take off driving. And then my pager started going off, and people were telling me they was bringing my nephew out the house, and that they was bringing a safe out the house. So, I figured it must have been something dealing with drugs. And then we tried to find out about a bail for my nephew. They say he had a detainer. And then the next day, the 15th, that's when they put it in the newspaper that we were wanted for murders. And I contacted a lawyer, and he told me he said he'd get back with me. I called my father, trying to contact my old lawyer, and he called him. And then my lawyer told my father that he said he don't know what's going on, because he used to be an ex-prosecutor. He said he don't know what's going on. Said if it was me, I wouldn't stick around. So that he gave my father that message. So I kind of took that as get the hell out of there. So I left Camden.
So, well, okay. Hopefully the lawyer didn't say that, but you guys had
allegedly. He allegedly said, "Well, I got it from my father. My father said he talked to him. He said he don't know what's going on. Allegedly, he said he wouldn't stick around."
Yeah,
so
you had some bad lawyers throughout this case. So I'm not going to put anything past past what they said. But they caught you a month later, Sean. And tell us what happened next.
Well, I came back to Camden. I left Camden, went up to I visited someone in Newark, and I visited someone in Trenton. Then I went down Atlantic City, visited someone. Then I came back to Camden with the intention to turn myself in. I was trying to contact my former attorney who represented me on other cases, but I couldn't catch him. And then someone happened to see me at an associate's house, and they called the police and sent the police there. So they came and locked me up. I think it was March the 22nd or 23rd. And they took me to the police station, and they informed me that I was being charged with homicides, 3 homicides. And they were trying to question me, but I just kept telling them, I said, I want a lawyer. I said, I don't have nothing to say without a lawyer. And there was 2 different sets of detectives about the double homicide and about a single homicide. And they just kept asking me questions. I kept saying, I don't have nothing to say without a lawyer. I don't have nothing to say without a lawyer. And they asked me if I'd take a polygraph. I said, yeah, you call my lawyer and let my lawyer say if I can take a polygraph, I'll take one. So from the beginning, I just lawyered up because I really didn't know what was going on. So I just...
And did you know did either one of you know, I mean, all of this was based upon a wrong ID or a crooked ID? I mean, did either one of you have that understanding?
I knew it was a bad identification, and after a while, because I wasn't there, so it had to be. After a while, I'm saying the story can't be believable, because if I wasn't there and she's saying that I was there and I did this, so I'm starting to question, was she really there? So as I started doing investigating, trying to get myself out, writing, I had to start figuring out like, her story really don't make sense. Her story can't make sense if I wasn't there. It can't make sense. So that's when I start really looking, saying like about the guns, how they, the shell casings and all this stuff. All the shell casings come from one gun. And it was 3 shell casings. It was 3 wounds. And all the shell casings come from one gun. So it's like, that to me, that's saying it was actually one person. So as I start going on into that, I start seeing things. Then the guy saying that she wasn't there, like it's nothing that corroborated her story. That's why I can't say it was a mistaken identity case. It wasn't. It was impossible for them to just look at it and say, "Oh, it was mistaken identity." I couldn't go with that.
Hey, Mr. Dietz, it wasn't a mistaken identity. The witnesses who the state used against us, the so-called witnesses, they didn't even witness the crime. They wasn't there. They just they either made up a story or were fed a story, and they just regurgitated. But I come to learn that the witnesses that gave a statement against myself and against Mr. Baker in the homicides, they didn't even see the crime.
Do either one of you have a sense as to why? Were they paid off? Were they angry at you for something else?
It couldn't have been that they was angry at us for nothing else. That's what I said. Like you can say that it was some corrupt, but that's the thing that you have to prove. I mean, like prove everybody gonna say, well, the cops didn't really. Why would the cops just do that? Why would they do that? But if you look at it's no other way. Like, why would she? Like you said, why would she do that? Like, she didn't have any problem with me. She didn't have any problem with him. Like, why would she do that? Did they give her money? She wasn't crack addict. She was a crack addict, alcoholic. She was all the above, you know. So, but if you could blame it on her and say, oh, she did it for money. But did they made her, they gave her the money and they gave her the story because she was not there. So it ain't like they paid her to tell the truth. Here, we gonna give you some money to tell her what you see. You know, so
Yeah.
it
So
always
that's the first bad thing. I mean, there's a lot in a combination of lots of bad things, but let's talk about the second bad thing, which were your attorneys. You both were appointed attorneys. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, I had appointed attorney.
Tell me what kind of guys or gals these were.
Well, my attorney, I had a PD. He actually told me, listen, man, I can't come over there and babysit you. All we can do is wait till she get on stand. And I actually seen him maybe, 2 or 3 times maybe before my trial. He did absolutely no investigation. He did no investigation about the physical evidence. He went and seen nobody. He developed no character witnesses. His defense was they're not going to believe her. It's one witness. The state has the burden to prove. His defense wasn't, how he's going to put up a defense to help me. His defense was that, well, the state has to prove it, and we don't really have to do nothing. So
he wasn't proactive in the least bit, and he
No,
didn't. Did
all.
he ever interview your alibi witness?
See what he did with my alibi was something that was strange too, because my alibi informed him that soon as I got him, this was happening. What he did was actually send my alibi to the prosecutor's office. He said, well, if he's go tell them that. He didn't take no statement from her before to protect her. He sent her to them, and what the prosecutors do, they flim-flammed her story all and made it into something that it actually wasn't. So he dirtied my alibi. He dirtied my alibi from the beginning. My alibi, that she said this wasn't on. She actually told him what show she was watching, how she remembered the day and everything. But they put a 360, mixed the story all up and say she said this. So now he tell me, I say, yo, why you ain't not using my alibi? Oh, they said she lied. I can't bring her. They said she lied, so we can't bring. But she never was going to say what he said the prosecutors told him. She wasn't going to get on the stand and say that. But just because they had a report. They never even had a statement from her or a recording. They had a report from her.
Disaster.
So, yeah.
Sean, tell me about your lawyer.
Well, I had got a pool attorney. I was appointed an attorney named Michael Kahn. And Michael Kahn honestly had a good reputation in Camden County for being a good lawyer. So someone told me to sign up for a PD and they see if they can get me a good lawyer. So that's what I did, signed up and ended up getting Michael Kahn. Like I said, he had a good reputation for being a good lawyer because he represented some guys throughout the city and he ended up getting them good deals. But all he was a good deal attorney. I don't know if he was a good trial attorney. So he had, like I said, he had a reputation. So I thought I had a good attorney, but he did absolutely nothing either. I told him about the 911 call before we even got the transcripts, and everything I told him, it was in the transcripts of the 911 call. He told me that he used to represent the spouse of the 911 system. He was going to have him come in. He told me he was going to bring the girl's cousin in, Ty Moore. I told him about my alibi witness. 3 days before my trial, the investigator got a statement from an alibi witness, which I didn't see until after we got convicted. So, I mean, they basically did nothing. It was a 2-day double murder trial. The third day they deliberated and found us guilty. We had alibi witnesses, rebuttal witnesses. They called nobody. One gentleman I met down in prison said that they did a drive-by on me because it was just like a get them in and get them out, get them convicted. It was surreal.
It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. Did anything ever happen to these lawyers? Did they get disbarred? Did they get grieved? Did they
they still working?
And the
Unbelievable.
And another thing about that time was, if you look back at the the prosecutor's office, like I said, is they actually, like when they arrested us, they actually did a murder sweep. They actually supposedly solved 13 murders that week. Now, as an attorney, like the system, You know how hard it just seems strange that you could solve 13 murders at one time. And you know
Sure
what
does.
the whole strategy was, what they was using with those to solve those murders was a crackhead saying somebody did it. So it was the same technique that was being used. So the story is actually in what they were doing at that time to get those murders, to get people, to lock people up for murders, because they was using that, because a lot of people were taking deals. They were dealing out. But that was the strategy they was using. So once they get you in there, either you could take a risk with your life or, take this deal.
I
Yeah.
assume you both were offered plea deals.
Well, I was, but my plea
Yes.
deal was to tell on him, though, to say he did it.
And then what would happen to you?
I would get 7 years.
And you served 25. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't take that deal because it was a lie.
Because I wasn't there. I couldn't tell I'm telling him the whole time that I wasn't there. And then you come to me and say they willing to give you a deal for 7 years. Like,
Sean, were you offered a deal?
Yes. The first deal that they came at me with, Mr. Khan said it was a 50 with a 25-year stick. And I said, I'm not taking no 25 years. I didn't do anything. And they came at me a few more times with deals. He said, the prosecutor has another deal for you. But I never heard him. I told him I do not want to hear no deal. I said, I'm not taking a deal. Don't tell me about any deals. He said, well, by law, I have to do it. I said, I don't care. I'm not taking no deal, so I don't hear nothing they say. But he came at me a few more times with a deal that they were offering. But each time I was shutting down, told him I don't want to hear it because I'm not taking no deal.
It's absolutely crazy. So I remember reading in your bios about more about this Denise Rand. But before we get there, they never recovered murder weapon or weapons, correct? That was never presented at trial. There was no DNA evidence at trial connecting you guys or anybody. Is that true?
no.
Yes.
No.
And there was one witness who said she saw you, this Denise Rand. How would you guys say she did on the stand?
Oh, she was terrible. The first thing she said on the stand was, keep in mind that they held her in a hotel for 2 days before she took the stand. And they paid her under a material witness statute. So they wasn't actually paying her. She was a material witness, so they're allowed to give her money. So it was legalized to pay her. Well, they had her on this. The first thing she said was, listen, I don't remember. It's a long time ago. But you said, I don't know. I could have said it. I could have said this. She was real belligerent. So what they had to do was they had to give her statement. So she actually sat up there and read from her statement. Oh, you remember you said that? Oh, yeah. So it's just like she was just going by what she thought she had to complete, whatever deal they made with her, whatever. And she just said, oh, they said, all right, come on, let's refresh your memory. They start reading the statement and they allowed it. And that was it.
She admitted to smoking crack within hours before she was drunk. She doesn't know if she was paying attention or not paying attention.
Yeah.
And the jury believed. Now, did either one of you guys get on the stand and testify?
See, that's another part of the defense, was that you don't have to say anything. They have to prove that. So that be the ignorance of a lot of us. Like when we go into these trials and stuff, we come with the concept of they have to prove that we're guilty instead of us trying to prove that we're innocent. So we listen to that too. Oh, they don't have anything. They got to prove we did it. So
how did either one of your lawyers do a decent job of showing how bad of a witness she was on cross-examination?
Well, they really destroyed her though. She wasn't like it wasn't like she was really no good witness. She wasn't really no good witness.
Hey, Mr. Dietz, I wanted to testify. Oh, I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter. My name is Michael Morse.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moore. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I wanted to testify on my own behalf, but my attorney, he was adamant that he said he wouldn't let me testify. I did not know that I had the right to testify until after my trial. But even at one of our hearings, before we got out, he admitted on the stand that I wanted to testify. He wouldn't let me. So I was more than willing and happy to testify, because my testimony would have been the truth of what happened that night as far as concerning me. But like I said, the attorney was adamant that I couldn't testify, and I didn't know I had the right to testify.
And then it sounds like there was some difference of opinion. There was a firearms expert who couldn't tell certain things. Didn't sound like he made a great witness. What is your take on that expert?
The firearm expert from the state. Well,
Yep.
their thing was they had to make it 2 shooters when the physical evidence showed that it was really 1 shooter. So their theory was that, oh, maybe it was a 9mm revolver that was used. You know, they start bringing up these guns like these rare antiques. It was a one of them even said that maybe he what they said, took the shells out and took the shells out of the 9mm revolver and left them at this. It was all types of theories to say that, oh, it could have been 2 guns. But like I said, 3 shots, 3 wounds, 3 shells, all come from 1 gun. Even if you look at, they went into the positions of the bodies. They had, man, on our appeal, they had Michael Bott, and they had all those guys, Lucian Haig up there. I mean, like top guys that just destroyed them. And we had this judge, he just wouldn't let us for some reason. He just wouldn't let us. He didn't believe it. He said, oh, it could have been 2, you know, when all the evidence proves that it was actually 1 gun, all the physical evidence.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing how they convict 2 people for 1 gun. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. I haven't read your transcripts, but it doesn't. I mean, your attorneys must have not poked many holes and must not have shown a jury of 12. Actually, is it 24? You both had your own juries?
No, we had a joint trial.
We had a joint trial.
So usually they have 2 different juries in joint trials, but you guys shared a jury, which is pretty rare. I've never heard of that.
Oh no,
interesting. No, but it's interesting. But so the defense attorneys showed nothing that you guys were innocent. The alibi witnesses weren't called.
No.
Tyrone Moore, who said that they were too far away to see anything, was he called?
No, he wasn't called either. He was not called.
That doesn't make sense. Did you ever talk strategy with your lawyers?
Yeah, but like I said, when I was writing them, that's what he told me. He said, listen, I'm not coming over there to babysit you. He was like, we only could do is wait for the trial to start. And I'll write, listen, I've got a record. I've got a record established that I wrote judges. I wrote everybody complaining from the beginning. So, and they would tell me, listen, stop writing me, write your attorney. If you write me again, you're going to be sanctioned. We can send a letter to your attorney. So I've tried to like talk strategy.
No, it's interesting that you are saying that, Kevin, because a lot of these interviews that we've done, the clients, the accused, you know, don't make enough noise. And it sounds like you were trying to make the noise. You were trying to notify the judge and anybody who'd listen that this isn't right. Your counsel's bad. We're about to get railroaded here, and nobody would listen to your pleas.
Yeah. I bet, man. I have tons. I have stacks, man. Like actually letters, like begging, like listen, man. Like look at this case. Like just pay attention to it. Like all anybody had to do was just pay attention to it. It wasn't like it was nothing. Like this was really something. Like they really gonna get this off. Like they really snuck and got this off. A 2-day double murder trial with 1 witness, with 1 lady that just come in there high and everything. Like she didn't even have no regard for the courtroom when she came in there. You know, they had her in the hotel for 2 days. Like
probably
like,
should, probably so she wouldn't drink and use crack.
Yeah, and then,
right?
And then they asked her, like, yeah, they went over the story with her. You know, they went over the maps and all this, and she still got in there and didn't remember anything. So it wasn't even like she was a good witness when she got her. But the thing is, like you said, how can a jury still convict you? So that's the part that puzzles me. Like how could they take you and put you in front of those people, and how could those people convict you like that?
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. August 1st,
Nah.
1996, you're both convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 60 years. Did either of you at that point ever think the truth was going to come out?
I
Yes.
did. I always did.
Yes.
Because it was
Yes.
I always did.
All right,
I didn't know
good
it was
for
going to
you.
Hey,
take that long though.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
it's so deeper than just the surface of what we're speaking about. I came to learn through investigation and talking to people that the FBI had evidence that somebody else committed the crimes that we were convicted of. The FBI was watching Camden since 1991. They brought indictments in 1997, and a couple of the defendants in the federal cases to take, they took plea bargains. They had to tell everything they knew. So I learned that two federal informants in two different cases told the FBI that we didn't do the case, that we didn't commit the crimes, but that was like swept under the rug. And then when the college came on and took our case in 2012, we informed them of one of the witnesses in the federal case, and they interviewed him, audio and video interview. And he said he told them back in the early 2000s that me and Kevin didn't do it. And, they never did nothing. Then when he came home in around 2011, he said he tried to go to the prosecutor's office to explain to them that we didn't do it, but they just kept ignoring him, shushing him away. So we haven't been able to find all the evidence from the federal cases of who said what, but from what I've learned, that the FBI, the federal government that was watching Camden, knew that me and Kevin didn't do it, and they just let us rot in prison.
It's beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
After losing multiple appeals, 2011, the Last Resort Exoneration Project at Seton Hall University took on your cases. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I was writing, like I said, I was writing so many colleges, and I was actually writing a place in Princeton at the time, and back and forth. And the guy next door to me, he said, man, write these people. They just opened from Seton Hall, the Last Resort Exoneration Project. I filled out the information. I told my story. I explained it. And from there, she said, listen, she said, I like what I hear with this case. So she took the case. It took a while, she gathered information. They started investigating, man. Once they started investigating, it was over. That's all like I said, that's all it took was for somebody to just pay attention and investigate. Once they see, she like, come on, like it was over.
Sean, tell me about when they found your 911 call and what you learned happened to that in all those years.
They found it hidden somewhere in the prosecutor's office in files and in some record room. So, but then they said when they found it, they took it to the college, and them and the students listened to it. As soon as they said they heard it, they said one of the students said, "I think that's Sean Washington," and they never even heard my voice. So the 911 confirmed what we was telling from the beginning, and like the attorney from the Seton Hall, she said like everything that we told them about the case and about our alibi, everything. So they were able to confirm it through investigations. So. That 911 was somewhat of a game changer, because even when they went to the public defender's office and searched through my records, I had multiple letters where I was writing the public defender's office telling the attorneys to get the 911 tape, and no one never got it. No one ever. One attorney on my appeal, PCR, she called the prosecutor's office and asked them if they had they still had the 911, and they told them the 911 dispatch, and they told them no. So they never followed up after that. But the way I was introduced to the Last Resort Exoneration Project, it was an attorney who I used to associate with named Jean Ross, and she was at a convention with a bunch of lawyers, and she knew the Risingers, Leslie and Michael, and they said they was going to start a new exoneration project, and she said she told them about me, said I think Sean Washington case might be right for y'all. So that's how I found out about the case through another attorney.
Now, what happened was they wasn't going to take his case at first. until they
yeah,
found the
yeah.
911 call.
Oh yeah,
Once
yeah,
they found the 911 call, see, they just had my case at first.
yeah,
And once they found the 911 call, then that just solidified, all right, him too. Because we were both like going separate ways. Like he was with him, he was far as like legally trying to, out out legal to out legal him. Me, I actually knew that, we gonna need some help. Like we gonna have to gather evidence. You gonna need help from people outside to actually show evidence. Like trying to, ineffective assistance, like just word playing with it. Like we had it, we actually had ineffective, but we didn't have the actual, statements, or we was using like little reports and this and that. Until the people actually did the footwork and started bringing about the evidence, then okay, now you got something.
Hey, Sean,
yes, sir.
have you thanked Kevin yet?
Yeah,
he
I've
had
him many times.
He had
No. I mean, the way it's coming down here, it sounds like he had the right tactic, and thank God he did, because
yeah,
that 911 tape turned up. If his efforts didn't turn it up, you might still be not here on this podcast with me today.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it was
he owed
in the
me.
beginning. In the beginning, we didn't work together because we didn't get along. We didn't really know each other. But towards the end, when the college came along, that's when we started working
Yeah.
together and sharing information. Because I mean, even after I was convicted, like Kevin said, I was trying to do stuff legally. I was reading and studying the law, and I did a supplemental brief for every appeal that I had, and they would ignore the issues when they was valid issues. So and then I was hiring private. My family was helping me get private investigators. They were going out there talking to people, getting new statements, which was newly discovered evidence, and the judge just kept ignoring everything we put up. He would just deny.
Yeah,
And
we had a pretty. The judge was pretty, like he was bent on, like I don't know what his
he
problem was with us, but he was like he wouldn't
he
let us
fought harder than
go,
the
man.
prosecutor. He, yeah.
Cause I think the appeal we had before we was exonerated, that new trial, it was like a trial, man. We was up there for 2 weeks, witnesses, man. It was like we put on a display of everything that just shut them down, and he still was like, man, nah, no.
You're
That's
saying the
all he
judge or the
really-
prosecutor? The judge or the prosecutor?
the prosecutor really didn't. He couldn't really put up a fight because we actually had the evidence to show. So he couldn't really, But the judge was on this. It's like the judge really was backing him, like, so he really had to, like, it was strange, man.
Terrible.
It was strange.
Absolutely terrible. I have a note here that the witness who said you guys saw you. The witness who said she saw you guys commit the murders died from breast cancer, but her friends came forward saying that she admitted to lying to the police. Is that a true statement?
No, who died from breast cancer was my alibi. My alibi died.
Okay. So my note here is wrong. I'm sorry about that. She died. So tell me what happened. She died, and what happened?
She died from breast cancer. But like I said, my alibi was always, her story was always there. But what happened, like I said, what happened with her story is what he let them do from the beginning. So it dirtied my story. It dirtied her alibi from the beginning. But the thing with it being dirty, it never was any statements or anything that she actually said that. The prosecutor wrote a report that, oh, she said this. Oh, she said that. And so this was being used through all my appeals, this report, when she actually had statements, and it was notes. They went and got notes from the public defender that he had written down. They confronted him with his own notes. He had to change his whole story, because he came to one of my appeals and he was adamant that, oh, I did this, I did that. They gathered evidence and had to confront him, and he had to fold his hand. And he had to come back on stand and say, well, I only said that because I didn't look at none of my stuff when I made this statement. I didn't go through all my notes. So that's why I said it at that hearing. Like it was like, how could you sit up there like I said, damn, like you helping me now, but it's like, oh, man.
25 years too late.
Yeah, like, so
all the new evidence that you guys presented, the trial judge denied
Yeah.
your new trial or reversal, correct?
Yeah.
But the Court of Appeals, thank God, reversed the trial judge who was not being helpful throughout this whole thing. Were you guys surprised that the Court of Appeals did the right thing?
Well, I wasn't, because they had started hiring big guns now, so it was big names on those appeals now. Like they had Lawrence Lusberg, like these was guys that were, they knew once their names start, and that's why they jumped on, because they knew, like, man, come on, y'all got to let them go. So everybody started joining forces and jumping in on the case and signing their name. Even at the end, the new conviction review unit, they finally stepped in and said something. So
Well, that's
I think the walls closed in on it.
that's amazing. Congratulations to you both. Tell me, and then getting the news that the prosecutors who could have tried you again decided not to, which shouldn't have been a hard decision, and hopefully it wasn't a hard decision. That had to make you both feel good that they weren't going to try you again, correct?
Yeah.
February 11th, 2020, you guys are released. What was it like walking out of prison? Kevin, I'm going to ask you first, and then Sean, you can answer.
Like I said, you got all these thoughts of what it's going to be like, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, I couldn't. Nothing came out that time. Like, I thought I was just going to emotionally just be like break down, like, oh man. But I was just like, damn, like still like shaking my head. Like the same way I went down is the same way I think I came out. Shaking my head, like, damn, like I can't believe this. Because that happened so fast too. Like we was in there in the next week we out. It happened so fast.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sean, what about you? How was entering the world again for you?
It was kind of surreal, even though that might be a cliche. It was something I knew was going to happen one day. It just was kind of like long overdue. And as to one of the earlier questions about the witnesses' friends giving statements about she said she didn't witness it, I hired a couple investigators that found people that gave us statements that the witness admitted that she didn't see the crime. So that part is kind of true. Also, like we never gave up hope. We knew we was getting out one day. And with the appeals, we figured that we didn't think we were going to get on the appellate division. We thought we were going to get it in the Supreme Court. Because like Kevin said, a lot of high, well-known attorneys started doing amicus brief for us. Raymond Brown, Lawrence Lusberg, Linda Mayling. So we had about 4 or 5 amicus briefs. So we knew we were going to get them this time.
Wow. So Kevin, what city are you in, and what are you doing now with your life?
I'm in Camden right now. I'm actually working at the hospital, and I'm actually preparing to take this personal trainer. I'm doing a couple things right now. I ain't gonna say that's gonna be my all, but like just jumping off the ground, running. I'm keeping myself moving. So those are 2 things I'm doing right now. So
okay,
I'm probably trying to own some property though, because I see that's a thing. That's a thing I'm trying to get into.
Sean, what about you? Where are you at? Where are you physically located?
I'm still in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm looking into nonprofits. I would honestly like to start a nonprofit to help other guys who are actually innocent, because me and Kevin's case are not isolated incidents. I was a paralegal while I was in prison, and I read a handful of other guys' cases who I believe are actually innocent, and I would love to help them get out. So I'm working on, starting me a nonprofit organization. Also, I'm taking a little college course, a business management course. Also, I had a job offer by an attorney to come work for as a paralegal. So I'm going to work as a paralegal for this attorney I met. And also, I would like to go back to school. I would love to get a degree in law. Like I studied the law majority of the time I was in prison. I love that law. It opened my eyes to a whole nother world. So I hope to pursue a career in the legal field one day.
Our profession would be lucky to have you.
Well, thank you.
I want to stay away from legal field.
You both faced false forensic evidence, perjury by a witness, terrible defense attorneys. I mean, the fact that Sean, you want to go into the law, and Kevin, you don't, is both understandable. because
Yeah.
the system definitely is messed up when it comes to these types of things, and we need to change it. And I think
Yeah.
certain things are being changed, but a lot more work needs to be done. I think our viewers are going to be interested to know if either one of you have been compensated by the state of New Jersey yet, or if you're working on that for the wrongful incarceration convictions.
Well, they working on it now. They working on it, but it's going to be a while. I hope it's going to be a while though. So
Neither one of us has been compensated, as he just mentioned. Also, they have a law in New Jersey. It's called the Mistaken Identification Act, the MIA, where they're supposed to give us a certain amount of dollars for every year we was incarcerated. It's a statute where we are entitled to money for those 25 years we were statuted on the state level. And the state of New Jersey, the prosecutor's office, they're fighting against it to give us that compensation.
Why
So
are they? What is their argument against it?
I have they claiming that even though they refused to take us back to trial, they don't feel that we were innocent. You know, they said they didn't want to take us back because of the long period of time. It may be harder to retry the case, which is BS. Because I've seen them take people to trial for murders 30, 40 years later. So there's no statute of limitations on murder in New Jersey. But they saying that they feel as though the state saying they feel as though we weren't innocent. You know, they don't want to, you know, they don't want to concede. They still want to fight and try to hold up the lie.
Yeah, they don't want to cough up the money, and they don't want to admit they were wrong.
Yeah.
Sean, what would you like our audience to know about other innocent people who are still locked up and trying to get people to believe their stories?
Wow, it's this one gentleman I met in prison. He's legally blind. He cannot see. He was falsely accused of a sexual assault case, which there was no evidence to support that. I mean, people, like it says innocent until proven guilty, but the way the society is, we're really, once you get charged or accused of something, you're really guilty until proven innocent. I mean, I just want people to know that there are innocent people in jail, and it can happen to any one of us, any one of our families, if we don't protect ourselves. So number one thing is if you can afford to keep an attorney on retainer, keep an attorney and try to learn the law. And even though I had attorneys on retainers, I didn't know the law, so they was able to do what they wanted to do. But once I learned that law, they couldn't do what they wanted to do or tell me anything. So I hope society will understand that there really are innocent people in prison.
And Kevin, do you want to answer the same question?
Well, I would say that, like, for me, I look at it as a point where, like you said, like you're in the legal profession, so you know the law, and it's, for me it was the psychology, the mentality of the people that interpret how they interpret the law. Like, if you got a biased opinion of people, that you will interpret the law a certain way. Like, say if you're a bigot, you're going to interpret the law. If you're a lawyer, you're going to interpret the law. I won't even say bigot. Just say you prejudge, or you don't understand a certain culture, or you pick up things different. Like, and they come into these situations, and if you're perceived a certain way, like us, it could only be like you were saying, like, how could the jury convict you? Like, it could only be that the jury perceived us a certain way, because you couldn't go by the evidence. And it's the thing with those prosecutors. They know that all they have to do is get us in that box, and they can let the perception of the jury find us. That could actually find you guilty. And that's what happened in this case. And we sat there and we did nothing, because in our head we were saying, oh, we're innocent. They got to prove we're guilty. You know what I'm saying? And I guess if I'm on the jury, I'm sitting there saying, man, if they were innocent, why they didn't, like, damn, they didn't take the stand. They actually did nothing. So, like, we have to understand that it's people, like, in that system, man, are actually, like, they have some issues, man. So, like, we always talk about reforming the law. Like, you can change words, like, but can you change how people look at, how can you change that? How people interpret the law, how they, enforce the law. So it goes into that. So that's how I look at it.
Well, Kevin Baker, Sean Washington, I'm very sorry what the state of New Jersey did to you guys for 25 years, but I'm thrilled that you're out. and thankful that you got Seton Hall on your team and were able to, find the uncovered evidence and make a really good showing that you guys were innocent. And I'm just so happy for you both that you're out. So thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being on Open Mic. We really appreciate it.
And sorry about the technical difficulties, man. I told you I'm behind in technology.
Hey, no problem. I think my listeners and our viewers are going to forgive you too.
All right.
So thank you so much.
All
right. Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Open Mic. It's another tragedy, another story of Kevin Baker, Sean Washington, 25 years in prison for both of them for murders there was absolutely no way they could have committed. They had terrible defense attorneys who allegedly are still practicing law in New Jersey. The state won't compensate them. It's just unbelievable. And I'm shocked every time we do another one of these episodes, and it's just the same old stuff. And it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating. But thank you for being here. If you know somebody who should hear this show, watch the show, please send it to them. Subscribe, comment. Let us know your thoughts on these wrongful convictions and these exonerations and anything else you want to hear about from Open Mic. We'll try to cover. And we really do appreciate you being part of our community and listening and watching to our show. It really means a lot to us. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.